morning. It's Thursday, January 26th. And I don't know how it happened, but as soon as I released my rant yesterday, Germany said yes. Do you think that they're paying attention to what I put out in YouTube? I hope so, but my guess is it was just pure, as they say in the vernacular, ass. I was very lucky that my rant came true. Now let's hope that the Ukrainians can kick some ass. Not only are the Ukrainians getting the Leopard 2 tank, they're also getting the Abrams tank from the U.S., and they're getting Challenger tanks from Britain. And the total of those tanks will be between 60 and 80 tanks. And right now, as far as I know, as far as anybody knows, the Russian artillery is not equipped to handle this barrage of tanks. I don't think they have the armaments to take these tanks and knock them out of action. At least that's what I'm hearing. The other interesting thing is that all of these tanks are different in some way, shape, or form. So they will be deployed to locations in the Ukraine that suit their particular features. So that if one tank is better in flat ground or on hills or whatever, that's where they'll send it. So they're going to take these tanks and put them to work in places where the tanks can be most useful. Now, Russia has come out boldly and said these tanks are going to burn, but I don't believe he's capable of getting those tanks to burn. I am not sure he's capable of fighting those tanks, he being Putin. Now, I had heard that the Germans have started training the Ukrainian soldiers on how to use their tank, the Leopard 2, but I don't know that the Americans or the British have started training any Ukrainians to use their tanks. And that could be a process that will take a couple of weeks. But maybe they already know how to use the U.S. tanks and how to use the Challenger. I haven't heard anything about those particular tanks in the news. Now, I know the Leopard 2 categorically said they had to be trained on that. Now, the question came up of why was the Ukrainian military and President Zelensky asking for the Leopard 2? The reason they wanted the Leopard 2 is because it's a very popular tank, and over 20 countries use the Leopard 2. So training on the Leopard 2 would become easy. And if they had mostly Leopard 2s, then taking care of those tanks would be easy, because they wouldn't have to learn all about the many different mechanisms that run these other tanks. So that's why Zelensky was so forceful in asking for the Leopard 2. Because apparently many of his fellow nations in NATO have Leopard 2s. And so there's a great supply of them out there. And if he got more Leopard 2s, then it would be easy for him to maintain. Because if he has a problem with the Abrams, or he has a problem with the Challengers, then he's got to have a team of people who are experienced in those two tanks. So that's a big drain on your manpower, on your resources, when you've got to have teams for tanks, let's say. But in any event, he's getting his tanks, and that's the important thing. And what one must learn from this entire exercise is that you can't delay. When you are confronting an enemy like Russia, who took the time, all the time they needed to load up against the border of the Ukraine, they took a couple of months sending troops there and lining up. And the rest of the world, the rest of NATO anyhow, and the U.S., they diddled around and they allowed Russia to get all these people there, when they could have stopped it faster. And look how long it took to decide that Ukraine needed these tanks. So the decision-making process in this war indicates that NATO is really not all on the same page. It shouldn't take weeks to make decisions. This is a war. This is lives are at stake. And look at the decimated country that they're now standing and defending. Ukraine has taken a tremendous beating in loss of citizens, loss of property, loss of power. And the world is watching and not really doing anything about it. And what's even sadder is that there are countries that are allied with Russia. And China is supporting them. Now, why in the world would China be supporting Russia? Is Russia so important to China? Yes, Russia has gas. and they have oil. But China could have gotten gas and oil from any number of countries. And they're paying Russia a fee beyond the normal fee. So China has given itself, in my mind, a huge black mark, and I don't understand what their thinking is. Because the rest of the world could turn against China. What if the United States stopped doing business with China? That would be a wonderful thing given the situation that exists right now. But we have put ourselves in a terrible position because we gave away the store to China. So we can't stop doing business with them. And we have to defend Taiwan because we need those chips. So when you look at the situation with the tanks and NATO and Russia and who's allied with who, you can see that the world is a very complicated place. And you can see that evil is not necessarily thought to be bad, because Putin is doing evil things and he is still being held by countries. So what are we to do? We have to be quick and react fast, and the world has to be afraid of us. That's a terrible thing to say, but the United States and NATO have to make a powerful statement. They have to show the world that they can be on top of their game. But you know what? That's very difficult when you have 20 or 25 or 30 leaders that have to come together with a single purpose. They all have excuses why they can't do this way. And so Russia has proved to the rest of the world that NATO is not the greatest organization in the world. Yet they're too slow, and who knows what that's going to mean in the future if some other group of countries decides that they can take action against one of their neighbors. It's a bad situation. It's a terrible picture that I'm painting here. That democracy in the world is not necessarily a good thing if it's slow to react. Dictatorships, they have no problems. The guy says, go and do it, and they do it. Democracy has a problem with speedy action. And so I think I've said enough this morning. And I'm glad that Ukraine is getting the tanks they need. Even though it's a mixed bag of tanks, and that's a little bit of a problem, but getting the tanks is important. And it certainly will be important when those tanks start moving and firing on Russia. So I think that finally, NATO has come together a little more quickly than I thought they would. Have a great day. I'll see you in the morning. Bye.